Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning into today's podcast. Today we have Andrew Tsai. I think this is a very interesting episode. We do ramble on a little bit about some nerdy stuff, but Andrew specifically focuses on gaming on macOS, and so there's some interesting things that we're going to talk about there. He's also the creator of PC Gaming Wiki, which is a highly successful website. He has Andrew Tsai, his normal channel. He also has Andrew Tsai's Tips, which is his second channel on YouTube. And he has a very interesting approach to YouTube. So YouTube content creators are going to enjoy this episode as well, because he's very clinical in his approach, very strategic in his approach. So some of my more sort of emotionally driven YouTube friends might find this kind of difficult to process, but I think it's very helpful to all of us to think of YouTube in this way, in a more business mindset. This is Andrew Tsai.
So hey everyone, my name is Andrew Tsai. You might know me from my YouTube channel. So I mostly cover Mac gaming at the moment, which is a bit of a misnomer. I cover all sorts of different topics like retro gaming as well. I think that there's a huge amount of crossover between the kind of topics that I cover and the kind of traditional retro handheld gaming kind of YouTube audience. I'm also famous for founding a website called PC Gaming Wiki. And so I've been running that for quite a long time. And I run not just my main YouTube channel, which is a Mac gaming channel. I have a second channel as well, which I do a lot of like short tutorial videos on. And basically I've been on YouTube for quite a few years now. So I started off probably more seriously in about 2011, 2012. And then I took a really long break. And then I started again probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And, you know, now this is my full-time career, basically. So that's where I am.
Okay.
That's who I am.
Yeah. All right. So when did you say you started? Because you said you took a long break. So when did you originally start YouTube?
So I started uploading to YouTube a few videos. So my son Benjamin was born in 2011, and I uploaded a few clips of him on the internet, and 2 of those clips went viral. So one of them is me putting him in a little baby Bjorn bouncer, and then basically I attached a motor or a drill to it, and I made an automated bouncer. So don't try this at home; it's very dangerous, right? But that went viral, and that has
go viral.
250,000 views. And then a few months later, my wife filmed us, and I was feeding him food, and he wouldn't eat unless I was playing the Gangnam Style music video in the background, and that went mega viral. And
Wolfgang, I mean that was just insane. Yeah,
it really dates the viral video at the time. Anything with Gangnam Style in 2012 was a big deal. Yes. But you know, my son not eating. And he would, you know, when I fed him, he would eat only when the Gangnam Style video was playing. And that kind of went mega viral at the time. It went on a lot of like morning TV shows, like breakfast TV shows all around the world.
Crazy.
And even gone to Ellen. Okay. It was one of those clips on Ellen, and it has 5.9 million views. It doesn't get many views now, but that's still remains my highest viewed video on my channel. And
insane. Okay.
Yeah, insane. But I did try to capture that, but my career got in the way, and I pursued other things. Okay. But I got back into it probably about 4 years ago, when I started recording other types of like more tech related videos, and then I kind of filtered down into this idea of gaming on a Mac as a concept. Yes, and making tutorial videos about that.
Yeah, which I really think. I mean, anything I do Apple related, obviously, we've got Apple's got almost a cult like following, and I mean people love their Apple products, you know. So I think you really onto something. Like my video for RetroArch, it's the only like Apple related video I have on my channel anymore, but it's RetroArch on the iPad, and I just show people how to do it, and it's done quite well. Okay, so this is your main channel, what you would sort of classify as your main channel, I guess. But the other one, so here we've got Andy Tsai's Tips, and you said this is doing really well. Whoops, I haven't subscribed to that one. And let's have a look here. So the other one has got 74,000 subs. This one's now, but you said this one you only started recently.
Well, I've been uploading to this for about, I think about 2 years now, like properly, right, on a regular basis.
Uh-huh.
So I have
Yeah.
for people who are interested in making a YouTuber career, I have basically two strategies that I follow. And one of them is this idea of making a mini tutorials channel. So the idea is that um, I target search-based terms. So someone's searching for a particular search term. So for example, like Hades
Yes.
2 on a Mac, right? There is no Mac version
Yes, I
of
saw
Hades
that.
2.
Very
You have to
clever.
run it
Yes.
through. You have to run it through a compatibility layer. And
Yeah.
basically, my idea is that I create as many tutorial videos as possible, and basically capture as many search terms. So it's a very blanket kind of bombing strategy where I don't really care that much about the editing. I try to film and create the content as quickly as possible so that's as relevant as
Okay.
possible. And you'll find that there's a lot of hidden YouTubers out there who don't really show their face, or sometimes they do show their face, but the real
Yeah.
priority is creating large amounts of content. Sometimes it's very niche, so like it's very specific to a piece of. A lot of it's tech as well, so it's like you might have
Yeah.
a device, and you can break it down into multiple smaller parts, which people do search for. So, for example, like an
Yes.
iPhone, right? You know, you can make a 20-minute tutorial video about how an iPhone works for a beginner user. But then there's actually, you can break that down into even tinier parts, like how do you turn on an iPhone, right? And if you do a search for
I
that on
see.
YouTube, you'll find videos which are millions of views, and you know, the guy's just literally turn on a phone. He's done it in one take. The video is 1 minute long, and that video is like thousands of dollars in terms of like ad revenue. And so
Yeah.
that the idea of the second channel is to basically take bits and pieces of what I do, and also what I do for my main channel as well, and then split it up and then upload it as well. And it's
Break it down.
I think it's a very valid YouTube strategy. It doesn't require the
Yes.
traditional skills. Don't need to edit. You don't need a good camera. You do need good audio, but what you do
Yeah.
need is time, and you need to optimize your kind of video output for search terms. So you know,
Yes.
that's my second channel strategy. And if you look at the you know the Social Blade stats for a lot of these channels which do this kind of thing, they are way more successful than traditional YouTubers in many ways, because you know you can make I've seen channels make 30 videos a day, right? So that's more than one an hour. That's more than one per hour, and it's like, and I can clearly see it's different people. They do it in shifts, and they just keep uploading, and they're getting like literally millions of views per day. And they just, I saw one guy who took an iPhone, like a new iPhone 15 Pro, and he literally made about 300 or 400 tutorial videos about that one device, and then he'll go and pick up a Samsung and do exactly the same thing. How do you turn on Bluetooth? How do you attach these headphones? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's a valid strategy.
Interesting.
And for my main channel, I like to focus more on the influencer side. So focus on browse-based content. So I have a regular audience who use Macs mostly as like a main device, as a productivity device.
You show your face. Yeah.
I show my face. It's the kind of content where it's much easier to get things like sponsorships, because sponsors like people who show their face and have a regular audience. It's just about one topic really, which is about how to run as many games as possible, as well as possible on Apple Silicon Macs. And it's a more reliable kind of topic to kind of delve into. So those are my two main strategies.
Yes.
I try and focus on both. Right.
Yeah, I think anyone. I do this a lot on my channel, so on the podcast. So a lot of people who watch this are creators. So it's interesting what the podcast has done, because initially I just started interviewing guys in the retro gaming scene because I thought the people in the retro, because there's a huge retro gaming community, and I thought they'd all just want to see their favorite retro gamers talk on a podcast. But what I do find is mostly the creators are the ones watching, looking to see what other guys are doing, and it's like a bit of like a friendship group, and everyone wants to see what everyone's doing, you know. And so I definitely think this information is becoming more and more useful, specifically on the podcast side for me. Sorry, that's a long thing just to say that I think people will find this very helpful for me as well, because we chatted a little bit on Discord, but to hear you explain it, like the second channel which you're explaining is more like your scientific channel. You're nitpicking YouTube, and it's not for everyone. Like I was thinking about it, and I was looking at your channels just before we hopped on the call, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I've got it in me to do this, because I find like analyzing. When I started my channel, I did do this though, was analyzing search terms and helping me decide on what video to make from there. And it's a very valid strategy. And I like the thing that I picked up on what you're saying is, and I say this a lot to like people, up and coming YouTubers, is take like every single retro gaming channel that got successful, took one device, so this Trimio Smart Pro, so a cheap device. So, you know, a person starting a channel doesn't have a lot of money, so buy one device and just nitpick the hell out of it, you know? Let's take a look at the sticks today. How did they, why did they choose these sticks? And then, you know, the next day you can talk about Chinese manufacturing. And then the next day you can really get into the weeds with these things, and it will grow your channel. Obviously within the confines of searchable, clickable things.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly like a very valid strategy, and I find a lot of YouTubers, when I look around, I'm always taking a look at what works for other people, and trying to adapt bits of their strategy. And what I do find is that a lot of people start with a device, and then they make a really successful tutorial video, but then deviate away from that, and then don't quite find the success. The thing is that search terms are very evergreen, right? So people are, and in certain types of tech, people are looking to be educated or to be helped more than to be, say, entertained or to find interesting things about that specific device. So I would say that if you're a YouTuber out there and you're struggling a bit, I think the help content is always there. It's very the tutorial content is always there. It's very valuable in terms of the money that you could make from it, and there's always a level of success that you could get from there. In terms of like actual personalities, and the number of people who could really sustain an audience that's attracted to their own personality, their own way that they present themselves, I think that there's a smaller number of people that like even a niche community like the retro game community could actually support. So you have a lot more, in a sense, competition with that, because you have to cultivate other skills. Whereas the tutorial side is, I think, a lot simpler for a lot of people, a lot more attainable for a low barrier of entry, because you don't even need to film your face. It's all about the how to explain the technical tutorial side things as clearly and as quickly as possible. So the kind of parameters you operate in is a lot more narrow. And obviously you can combine both. You can do both. So even on my main channel, my main channel is mostly composed of tutorials. So it's all tutorializing, how to get things working on a Mac. And it's a much more proportion, which is like commentary or news, right? So there's ways of combining both, right? Which I think is very common in the retro gaming scene, and which is why I draw a lot of inspiration from the retro handheld scene as well. So
okay. Yeah. I mean, just looking through your thing, I mean, the thing that really piqued my interest, because I am like, I made the mistake. I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I bought Fallout 4 on sale and didn't know the show was coming up. So I bought Fallout 4 and the show launched at the same time. And I'm just having a huge Fallout 4 like brain explosion. And so your video piqued my interest on that, and it's really clever the way, like, this is the thing that I really struggle with, and I think a lot of creatives do struggle with this, is to follow the trends, because we just want to, I want to walk into my studio and feel inspired and, like, make something beautiful. But sometimes it's like the thing that's right in front of you that can do really well. I mean, I'm actually surprised it's, I was expecting more views, but I mean, 10,000 views is a lot of views for like, but
I mean, for me, I know that it's going to
funny what works and what doesn't.
The thing is that Fallout 4 is quite an old game, and yes, it is picking up on the trend of the Fallout TV show, which I absolutely loved. I love the show. I'm actually playing Fallout New Vegas, which is my preferred title. It's like the one before Fallout 4.
Okay.
And
yes,
the thing about the trends is quite interesting, because I released this video, I would say, very late, right? So it's a week ago, but the TV show released 4 weeks ago, or something like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I was late in terms of releasing that. And
oh, I see.
I think,
so you didn't
I think
quite
I've missed the trend. The thing is that I know it's going to do well over time, because one of my earliest videos in the Mac gaming timeline has about 50 or 60,000 views from about 4 years ago. So I know it's gonna go up, because people keep asking about this, and there's on a Mac there's various tips and tricks to work around the various bugs that you have to go through. So it's a valuable video, and I know that it's going to do well. So I don't really care that it's not done well at the moment.
Wow.
And in comparison
on your standards, on my standards,
it's just in context of whatever. It's a 10 out of 10 video in your YouTube studio rankings, basically. And the thing is that trend jacking, or following trends, is probably the most important thing to consider when you're kind of starting out, or in the midpoint, when you don't have that super established audience which is going to like watch anything that you do. I think if I had published that video a week earlier, then it would be a 50K video, right? And the thing is that it's the same amount of work.
Okay.
I had to film. The filming took the same amount of time. The research took the same amount of time. Editing took the same.
Yeah.
And normally when I make a video, it's and I follow a trend, then I normally set myself like a time limit. I was explaining this to another YouTuber that's in a similar space, and I say to myself, this new device has come out. I have 48 hours, 24 hours. I have to make a video, and so I have to come up with all the B-roll as quickly as possible. I don't really care how good it is or how researched it is. It just has to be out, because that's the amount of time I can capture. And the longer you wait, the more kind of firstly, the expectation gets higher. So it's like, well, you had a week with this device. Why didn't you test X, Y, Z, right? If you only have a day, then you can only test a certain number of things. You can do a more in-depth video later if you want to. But I've done that before. I've done the initial video and I've done the testing video. I mean, you can see this on the screen here, right? I did the M3 MacBook Air video, released basically the same day that I got the device, within 24 hours, 154,000 views. Then I waited a couple of weeks to do extensive testing against the previous generations of the same device, and that only has 48,000 views. So often the thing is to like strike while the iron is hot, make sure that you are disciplined, and it's more important to be at that peak of that Google search trend rather than at the end, right? And it's much less valuable. So that's the lesson that I've tried to. It's quite a lot of pressure as well to do that, and
it can be quite
discipline. Yeah, it is stressful.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your honesty here, and I want to quickly jump back to something you said, because I've noticed a little bit of a sort of a thing that's happening in our community where people are valuing like. So what I do, like I'm able to talk to the camera in a very animated, like fun way, and I'm getting better and better at that. And so like the smaller YouTubers are seeing that is the goal. Like I have to be able to do that thing. Like all the guys that we like are able to do that thing, like sit in front of a camera and be like, hey guys, here's this thing. And like, it's not necessarily the end game. Like you said, I really like what you said is, if you go down that route, the competition is far greater, because like that is my skill. That is like what I'm probably best at. And I tried it in the camera space, and I was competing against, I don't know if you know these people, but Peter McKinnon and Mattia Poya and all these really big YouTubers.
I've heard of them.
And I was really struggling. Obviously, I probably know a lot more now, and that's probably also why I'm doing well. But it's just, I really appreciate your input and your insight and your sort of sobering mentality on all this, because I think a lot of guys are starting out thinking, I have to do that thing. I have to be all Anna and I have to get better at it. And it's not necessarily the case.
I mean, the thing is that, especially amongst tech nerds, I'd say, I think that the idea of like, leveling up your charisma skill on camera, right, is like not something that is achievable for most people. I'd say like you can improve to some extent, but you're never going to be like you can't like change the way you how handsome you are, or like how nice your voice sounds, or something like that. They're like hard limits on a lot of these things. Whereas the ability to deliver like a tutorial, like you can you could like try to copy somebody's style, like presentation style, and you might be able to do it better in some ways, but there's just some hard things that you just can't improve on. Copy somebody's video, but make it better by 10% by making it 10% shorter, or you can make it clearer or more specific to a particular product in a particular environment, which the main YouTubers don't have time to cover. So there's always room for improvement in that space. So I think it's easier to actually compete on that level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love your viewpoint, because it's like you're so comfortable with the cold hard truth. Some people have sort of like biases towards certain topics, and like, oh no, that makes me feel bad. But you seem to have a very sober point of view on all these things. It's really cool. I wanted to move on to Fallout. What did I want to say? So I don't do. Are you doing much Steamdeck content? I felt like I wanted to ask you a whole lot of Steamdeck questions, but now scrolling through, I don't think you do.
So on my main channel, I do have a Steamdeck.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I actually have two. So I'm actually. This is my older.
Oh, come on.
Well, and I'm running Fallout New Vegas on this. I'm playing.
Okay, cool.
I'm playing Fallout New Vegas at the moment. Ooh, can you see? And I love this thing. Yeah.
Fallout 4.
You've
literally
Fallout 4. Yeah, I saw a video where you got yours recently, right? It's a bit hard to get hold of in South Africa, right?
Yes. Well, that was the whole comedy of it all. Is my friend Tech Dweeb sold it to me from Canada. It took so long to get it. Crossed the Atlantic 3 times. So our local post is awful, and they sent it back for whatever reason. There's an issue in a lot of countries buying in secondhand tech. So we needed a permit, but the local post didn't know that, so they sent it back to Canada. Like, probably cost them a fortune. And then it sat at TechTube's office for a little while, and then he sent it back. We did DHL, we got the permits, and everything was fine. But by the time it got here, they started selling it locally. So almost at the price that I bought it from TechTube, if we include all that shipping. It was just madness. Anyway, but I have it, and it's a top of the range LCD. So I've got the etched glass 512 gig LCD. So it's a lovely device, and I did this. Sorry, I'm rambling a little here. I did the clear.
That's cool.
I love that.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. I think I did when the Steam Deck first came out, I did a bunch of content on my second channel to cover it. So
did you? That's maybe where I saw it.
Yeah, if you do a search on my second channel, I did like the initial. I did a lot of emulator tutorials, so like RPCS3, PCSX2, etc. Yeah, Citra on a Steam Deck, and they did pretty well actually. Yeah, so I got mine in like the second
Steam Deck
batch.
content.
Yeah, and it was good. But I found that the thing is that there's a lot of people doing Steam Deck content, and I found that in the Apple Mac gaming space, there's almost nobody doing it. So I found, in terms of like time spent, the best bang for my buck was spent doing kind of gaming on a Mac. Even though in my personal life, I don't really spend that much time gaming on a Mac. Recently, it's been way more on the actual Steam Deck itself. I also have a bunch of retro handhelds too. So I've got my RG35XX as well. I've actually got two of these. So I'm a big fan of like retro handhelds in general.
Yes.
But what I have found basically is that I did have the original Steam Deck LCD, which is the one that you've got with the etched glass. Ever since I picked up my OLED, it's got such good battery life. The fact that you could completely suspend it and it doesn't lose that much battery life, and then you could get straight back into a game. That's been such a game changer for me in terms of my busy life with children. And so I'm basically using that a lot to game on. The Mac gaming side is more of like an academic challenge for me. It's like this. I quite enjoy Mac gaming as a concept because it's a device you're not supposed to game on, right? It's this challenge, right? Yeah. Because basically like Mac
to see what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? And often what I found really exciting about it in general was this idea that I could get a game running that no one has ever gotten running on a Mac before, right? Especially on these new Apple Silicon chips. So for those that don't know, Apple changed their entire chipset from the Intel x86 chip into the ARM64 Apple Silicon chip in 2020, and that's when my channel kind of got started, because this ARM64 chip is in most smartphones and tablets, or most Android devices. It's a power efficient chip architecture, and when Apple changed over to their own chip, the M1, which is an ARM64 chip, it basically retained a lot of the like the power saving and the efficiency of, say, a smartphone, of a mobile device. But it could run desktop applications through various translation layers. Most people just couldn't get games to run through it, especially like normal Windows x86 games. And so what I found very exciting was just getting this thing working on a Mac where it couldn't work before. And there's all these like different tutorials and tools. And the Mac is a very operating system. It's a Unix-based computer. If you understand how to code, there's so much that you can unlock on the software side, and there's so much that can be done via virtualization and emulation on the desktop. On the software side, for me, it's like a very interesting, exciting space. And I've kind of mined it for a lot of content over the last few years. So it's been an interesting
definitely
journey.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something with it. I mean, like you say, it's a kind of a quiet space, and you're just pumping out the videos. And I really love your sort of academic approach to it, because I think a lot of us, myself included, I'm very much I was thinking before I got it, I'm like, Andrew seems to be a scientific YouTuber, whereas I'm very much like an emotional YouTuber. Like I've all my feelings and all my heart and my soul is in my videos, which is great because for personality and for people connecting with the channel, that's the benefit of what I'm doing. But on the other side, it's exhausting. Every video is like a piece of my soul. But when you whereas you're getting your kicks out of achieving something that no one else could do, and you're like, look what I did, and that's I like that, and I like the way that you're approaching it. It's a really good perspective. I wanted to ask you about because the update for Fallout 4 came out, and I think you did mention it, but there's the next gen update for Fallout 4. And I updated it, and I don't really know what it did for me because I've never played the game before. What is new in this next gen update?
Well, on the console side, I believe that a lot of things changed in terms of textures and bug fixes, etc. On the PC side, it's very disappointing because what it did do was break things like existing mod support. So people have been modding the game for decades, right? Well, for nearly a decade now, and it just broke compatibility, and it didn't really add many new features. So if you're playing on a
Okay.
Steam Deck on a PC, you're not going to see much difference, I'm afraid. But if you're on a console,
Okay.
then I think it brought everything up
Yes.
to the current console generation. Yeah.
Yes, sort of graphics and the sort of the beauty of the scenes and all that was improved
Yeah.
on the console, like kind of maximizing whatever is on the PS5 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting
Or
their refresh
Xbox.
rates, resolution,
Which
everything
one?
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything to the latest, to the kind of latest resolution and refresh rates.
Okay, so I selfishly just wanted to ask you that because I wanted to know if I was missing
That's
out on
okay.
anything. I had to unlock something on my Steam Deck.
Yeah. I think even for
All
Steam
right.
Deck, it introduced issues, which they've now patched. I believe. Yeah, but I do like Fallout 4. I do think that the older games are better though. So if you get bored of Fallout 4, I highly suggest you try New Vegas. It's excellent. Yeah. I've played it multiple times now. And,
Yes, most
love it. Yeah.
people recommended that to me, New Vegas, and I just stubbornly went with that because it just looked prettier. So I was like, I'm going to go with this with the cool graphics. But in what regard? So is the story better on New Vegas?
The story is better, right? The way it introduces your character is allows for more of kind of your ability to role play any kind of character that you want, because you play as a nameless courier, whereas in Fallout 4 you have a predetermined voice, you have a backstory which is predetermined. You live in this village, this town near to the vault, and you've already been in the military, etc.
Yes.
And just the way that things like the power scaling and introduction of things like power armor, like in the first hour of Fallout 4, you get in a suit of power armor and you mow down this Deathclaw in like 30 seconds, right? Whereas in a game like New Vegas, Deathclaw is an enemy that you fight near the end of your game, and it's like a huge deal. It's like very scary, right? Whereas
Huge build up. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that the New Vegas story interacts, all of the different factions, I think thematically makes a lot more sense and is far more interesting. All of the different factions, if we compare them to the different factions in Fallout 4, I think each faction, there's like 6 or 7 factions, has an interesting storyline. There are twists, and there are multiple ways to complete all of the factions and the way that they interact. Whereas in Fallout 4, it's basically there's basically one way to finish there's 1 or 2 main ways to like finish the game. Once you get there, you'll see. It's probably better to play
definitely
Fallout 4 first
to go back
and then New Vegas later. Yeah.
Yes, because now this is making me a fan. Because now I'm in it, I'm watching the show concurrently, and it feels similar. Even though apparently Fallout 4 is the least like the show, but it's got many similarities and connections that I love the dog in the game, and the dog is in the show, and all that stuff. But now that I'm a fan, maybe I can go back, because I started with there's Fallout. What's the one before New Vegas? Fallout 3.
Yeah.
I bought that one. And just graphically, I was like, I'm not connecting with this game, and it was really difficult for me. I'm actually quite new to gaming, especially this level of gaming. And anyway, Fallout 4 just felt more easy for me. So I'll go back. New Vegas.
Yeah, I think that the older games, they definitely got a level of jank in them, which is very hard to overcome. But I've watched your other podcasts, and you've described yourself as going in reverse with retro gaming. So these games are going to be retro games in the future, and people are going to be coming back to them. They're like, oh, this is like terrible. You can't play this game without save states or fast forwarding or something. That's what people are going to say.
Yes. Yeah, because I am essentially playing for me it's all new, but they're kind of retro already. I mean, New Vegas is quite old, It's
2009.
So
I think. We're talking 15 years.
Yeah. But you see, this is the whole discussion about this, and I think that podcast you're referencing is where I was talking about how consoles are peaking. So where are we going now? And so people are watching the show and then going, hey, and I think it's also bringing a lot of newcomers to gaming, because they're like, this story is so good. Let me have a look at the game, and then firing up Fallout 4, which is an old game at this point, but it is good enough for the modern world to go, this is just amazing. So I think we reached a point where even going back in time is still good enough for people in the modern era, if that makes sense to you. But
I mean, like some of the most popular games now are like really old now. You know, if you look at the SteamDB charts of like the top 10 games, like half of them are like 8 or 9 years old. Probably the most popular PC game is, you know, League of Legends, and that's really old. And that is based on an old mod. And you know, it doesn't matter that much that these games are old. And Fallout 4 is you know, they've treated it like a live service game, constantly updating, adding new content, and and it's palatable to a, you know, modern gaming audience. It works. And whereas the old ones, they need a bit of love. They need a bit of you need to get over the jank a bit. Yeah. So there's a lot to overcome.
But it's interesting because I just thought of the thing that came up in the news about the drama between the Fallout London team that got kind of put aside, and no one told them about it, and they released the new update for Fallout 4. And it's interesting that Bethesda, or whoever's in charge of that, did that because they thought the resurgence in interest, we want people to see Fallout 4. We will wait for Fallout London. It's a new modern game. It's a whole drama of launching a AAA game in 2024. They'd rather just update the game that they know is great, and they know that people are going to love it, even if they... Anyway, so it's interesting that they went that route. It just kind of shows my theory about the fact that we've peaked. It may be true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Fallout 4 is always designed, I think, to be updated. Yeah, even highly anticipated mods like Fallout London, that doesn't increase the bottom line of Bethesda or Microsoft. They need to update it no matter what. Well, what interest is high? This is like trend jacking at its highest, right? So they're in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying Fallout, and we spoke about New Vegas. Anyway, and I'm guessing you're enjoying the show.
I love the show. I watched it with my wife. She's not that much of a gamer, but she found it really fascinating. So I think it's a good introduction even for non-gamers. I was there like explaining everything. She's asking like, oh, what's the bolts about? You know, I was saying like back in time, like this history. I remember playing Fallout 4 back in '97 on my DOS computer, PC. You know, I loved that. There was this bug in Fallout 2. I remember, and it used to take about 2 or 3 minutes to save the game, and it was a bug in the first retail version. And I remember like, I was still even despite that massive bug, and you know, it's a kind of game where you have to save all the time, otherwise you might die at any moment and lose later progress. I still persevere through it, and I played the whole series like quite a few times in my life. Every 4 or 5 years, I'll play Fallout 2 again. I'm itching to play it again now, like thinking like, oh, I should do it. I should do another playthrough. And I'm really enjoying the Fallout TV show. I think it's a really good introduction to everything.
Yeah, my wife is also not actually. She's I must stop saying this so negatively, but she was raised to be quite against gaming. Like, so for her, there's a bit of a mental block. But obviously, with me doing this, she's slowly but surely coming around to the whole concept, and kind of like, you know, the little I tell her, she's like, okay, that's quite interesting, and all that. But yeah, I'm trying to get her to, I'll see it, because I'm not sure if the Fallout show, the TV show, is even really her scene. But I'll try. It's very gory. Hey, it's like,
Did you try watching any of it yet? She hasn't
not yet.
She hasn't watched the first episode. Yeah. I think it is for my wife. It's very gory. She just like turns away and is like, "Tell me what's happening," right? When something there's like random gore happens. But we watched The Last of Us. Have you seen The Last of Us as the HBO TV?
Yes, I haven't actually. Yeah, I have. It's so good. I don't know why I didn't finish that show. But anyway, yes.
Yeah. I mean, another, I would say, excellent adaptation of a game that was already very cinematic. So they didn't have that much to do in terms of like bringing it to TV, because it was already well acted and done very well. But that was another great show. Yeah. So I think, you know, there's a good standard to live up to, and that's, you know, appeals to anyone. It's kind of true. Non-game story. Yeah. So yeah, I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I wondered. I mean, you do the whole Windows gaming on Mac thing. So, and I think you touched on the architecture of it, but what's the sort of main nuts and bolts that you deal with when you? I didn't actually realize that. I've never really considered gaming on a Mac. So, what does it take to do that?
So, what you have to understand is that the new architecture chips, like the M1, which released in 2020, they're basically slightly beefed up versions of smartphone chips that you'll find in your iPhone, similar to chips that you'll find in any Android smartphone. And in a way, it's similar to a lot of these retro handheld devices, right? And so the challenge is, like, how do we get games to run, traditional Windows x86 64-bit games to run on these chips? And so there's a lot of compatibility layers which are similar to what you find with something like the Steamdeck, something similar to Proton. It's actually the same company that develops Proton, called Codeweavers. They make a product on a Mac called Crossover, which is a product that I promote a lot because I think it's they're the main kind of corporate entity behind Wine, which is the main technology behind Proton, and and they're a main partner of Valve as well. So the macOS side has a lot of similarities to the SteamOS in the sense that there's this compatibility of Windows API graphics libraries that need to be translated from, say, like DirectX 11 or DirectX 12, and they need to work on a Steam Deck. So the Mac has far more additional challenges at play here. So one of them is the fact that you also have to translate Windows 64-bit into ARM64, and Apple has a hardware layer called Rosetta 2, which does that on the fly. And then there's the other challenge is that macOS does not have compatibility with Vulkan. So Vulkan's an essential part of SteamOS, Steam Deck, and it's the essential technology which allows gamers to Valve to translate DirectX 11 to 12 to the Steam Deck. Vulkan, the low level hardware graphics API, which is open source. Now, Apple is a different kind of beast. Their graphics API called Metal is very different, and it's proprietary, so it's completely closed source. It is very popular because every iPhone, iPad app basically uses Metal in order to get good graphical performance. But because it's closed, it's a much bigger challenge. So there are various technologies which allow you to translate that as well. So there's basically those are the three translation layers. So a lot of people complain, I spent all this money on a Mac and I can only play Fallout 4 at like 50 frames per second or something like that. But they forget that it's basically a miracle that it can work at all. You're getting a Windows game designed for a completely different architecture, different operating system, and all of these things are at play here, and it can actually work. And not only does it work, it can work quite well, but there's a lot of things that require kind of tweaking and fixing to get that performance out of it. And what I find, just linking it to like the retro handheld YouTube kind of market, is that there's a lot of similarities in the sense that you're taking with the retro handheld, you're taking these games which were obviously never designed to be run on this little handheld device, and you're emulating it through some method, right? There's some way that you're getting it to run, and you're trying to run it as optimally as possible. And sometimes you have similar hardware. So like if you have like a Game Boy, you can get like a screen which is very similar to a Game Boy Advance. The same similar aspect ratio, and it works well. But other times you might try to run like a Nintendo DS game on this, and it doesn't have a touchscreen. So how's that going to work, right? You come into some of these similar issues on the Mac as well. You have you don't have the right hardware to enjoy the game to its full amount. For example, things like some games have kind of bad controller support. Some games don't work well with the refresh rates of the screen. The Mac uses 16:10 aspect ratios instead of games which are normally 16 by 9, and so there's various things which you have to overcome, and ultimately it's a compromise. Right? There's hardly any games which are optimal for Mac, right? And the fact is that most people use Mac computers for productivity. They're great for they're absolutely amazing for video editing, for example, photo editing, drawing. They have amazing battery life, build quality is fantastic, but for gaming they're just not optimal. For multiple reasons. If you want to get similar performance for Fallout 4 on a Mac, you have to be spending like 3 times more at least in terms of actual cost versus like buying a similar Windows laptop with a dedicated graphics chip. But what I find interesting is just this idea that it's not supposed to run, it's not supposed to work, but it can if you
like. You get a kick out of that.
You try hard enough, you can get almost most things to work. Somewhat on it, so that's what I find very interesting about it.
Yes, and I think so. I'm sure, like most of the guys watching this are like, "This is dumb. play your games on your Windows computer."
That's my comment section for a lot of my videos. It's like this is stupid. Just buy a computer. Just buy a console.
But the thing is, you've got to think about who. I mean, you're getting the views. And who's watching it? The people watching it, okay, it's curious people like yourself who are just nerdy and want to know how it's done. But then the other, like, if I had a Mac, because I still often think, because I mean, my laptop is wonderful as long as it's plugged into the wall. As soon as I plug it out of the wall, it's a piece of crap. Like, that's the frustration with a Windows gaming laptop. But, and so I often think of getting a Mac. And so when you've got someone who has a Mac because they need it for their business or for, like I do video editing, and with the M chips, it's still probably the best option. So that is the market. Someone who has that, does that, needs it for that priority, but then they go, but I still do want to play a few games. Like now, like for instance, let's say I'm not a big gamer, but I watched the show and now I'd really love to play this Fallout 4 game. How do I do it? And they end up on your video because there's only like 2 on the internet about it, So you've definitely captured a really good market. And sorry, I'm just, I think your whole concept is just kind of like settled in my mind. And you're also reaching out to a high income market, and that is the critical factor, because you're going to get high CPM and you're going to get brand deals of people who are like, take our money, just show people our stuff.
I think there's this. There are a lot of stats about Apple users who are basically more willing to spend money on apps. They're more willing to spend money taking shortcuts and things which you wouldn't traditionally on the Windows side you wouldn't pay money for. So there's various things wrong with things like the Windows Manager on the way that Windows are managed on a Mac is not ideal, right? And there are ways to make it more Windows-like, which is a bit more optimal. And the idea of spending like $5 on an app which makes your window management better, for a Windows user would be like, oh no, it's crazy. Why would I even bother doing that?
Yes.
But for a Mac user, it's like, if it saves me, X amount of hours in my lifetime, then I'll just spend the money. I don't care, right? And it's similar for the attach rates on the videos that I have. I'd say that the CPMs are good, but it's more like, I think it allows me to reach out to different kinds of sponsors, and a lot of the money on the channel is made through affiliate links. So a lot of people will purchase solutions to their problems, and so I think that it's a very interesting niche market. And if we contrast it to something like retro handhelds, where and I've noticed this as well in my own retro emulator tutorials as well. The RPMs are much lower, right? The CPMs are much lower, and I think that I think generally speaking has to do with I guess the idea that most retro gamers won't pay for software. They won't pay for ROMs, right? They're buying this. They're buying devices like this because they're. I was trying to avoid saying that, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. The idea is that
I'm one of them.
You don't want to attach a lot of. This is a hard market to sell things to, except other retro handhelds. You can only really sell other retro handhelds and maybe accessories and devices. That's like the target market. Whereas Mac side, I can get even like an Amazon affiliate link. I was really surprised one day, people buying MacBooks through my Amazon affiliate links, and that's like
you see,
that's a lot of money.
That's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, because in the space I'm in, I couldn't imagine that any affiliate link that leads to something expensive, it just doesn't really work. I mean, I have comments like I made a Steamdeck video. Someone somewhere commented, "Yeah, Valve just want my money. They're constantly selling me games." I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing. It's good that the game creators are making money. Stop pirating your games. Slowly exit. That's yeah. So that's what I say. From a business perspective, from a like totally objective coming into YouTube to make money, what you're doing makes a lot of sense. It's a good move.
It was all by accident. It was not by design. I didn't pick a list and think, oh yeah, I'm gonna pick the high CPM thing. It's all by accident. But what does surprise me is the fact that there's no one else really doing this. The not quite the topics that I cover anyway, which is more about like how to get games not designed for the Mac to run on a Mac. It surprises me because the Apple ecosystem is gigantic. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world, and they're constantly releasing new products. And there's all this misinformation, and it's just very interesting that no one else is really like trying to cover this, because I would call it very lucrative, right? This
definitely
this world,
I definitely think you're onto something. I mean, so when we started chatting and I went to your channel, and I like at first, I look at it because I mean, I don't have a Mac, so it's not something that particularly is, I'm not looking how to play games on a Mac. So then I thought, this is how is he getting so many views? And then obviously like started digging and understanding your methodology and what you're trying to aim at. And it just makes so much sense, man. It's a really great topic you're on. And I'm definitely going to take a feather out of your cap. So sorry, I was being a bit distracting there. I wanted to get something out that I'm going to show you now, because I saw it on your channel. But before I say that, I'm definitely going to take a feather out of your cap. I've been toying with an idea for a second channel. Once I get this, I need to focus. But the channel that I'm on right now, once it's kind of sailing and I'm making enough money that I can get help, because I've got a business here as well. But once I get that sorted, I want to do a second channel for, but the problem is it's quite a saturated market, is FPV drones. But I like your second channel where you nitpick little tips and tricks. I don't think there's anyone in the FPV markets focusing on one little thing. How do you do this small thing? There's a lot of like very long videos, and there's a lot of bad videos about FPV drones. But anyway, so I'm definitely going to.
An FPV drone is like a drone with a camera. Is that what you mean? The first person view? Is that what it means?
Yes, it's like I call it outdoor gaming, because it's the one where you put the goggles on, and the drone doesn't have any self-leveling, or like you can put position hold on it, but essentially the thing just flops around, and you've got to know how you can flip it, you can roll it. It's those ones where you see them diving down waterfalls, that sort of thing.
I think I've seen this. So you put the goggles on. Is it like a VR headset or something like that? That you have a feeling that you're looking through the camera.
Yeah, you can. Okay. Exactly, and you can spend an absolute fortune. I mean, I went super budget, and I've got like these little ones that I fly because it's not something that I want to spend a lot of money on right now. But the guys get goggles made by DJI, and there's a whole digital. So I've got analog, so it's very low quality signal, but you can see. That's how it all started, and it was a very cheap way to get in the air. But now guys have got digital goggles, and they basically see HD quality video of whatever they're seeing. It's really cool. It's like it's like outdoor gaming. You stand with your controller, and it's really cool. Yeah. So that's my
that sounds
second channel
like
for one day.
That sounds like an interesting idea. I think it's it's, you start a channel like that. The issue is, I think, that you have to start again from scratch, right? You have to build a brand new audience.
Yes.
And you have to kind of conquer that space all over again, right? It's like this.
Yes.
Whereas I think one thing that you could do, if you, it depends on what your goal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to augment the amount of money that you were making and build a second income revenue stream, you could do a similar thing with the retro gaming handhelds. But like basically what I do is like I take something that I'm going to do anyway. So for example, I recently made a Minecraft video which hasn't done very well, but I recorded that video as I was testing out Minecraft on a MacBook Air. So I recorded it as I was doing it, and I was debating whether to put it on my main channel or my second channel. But I put it on my main channel, but the concept's the same. I'm doing things at the same time as, right? And so when you, one thing you could do is, an idea is like, you're making you're testing out the newest handheld, and you just record a tutorial about how to get this emulator installed, or the latest version, or install this core into there. And you know, you could just publish that as a second channel video, or a third channel, is what you might think. And
well, it's interesting.
Try to like do it all at the same time, right?
Yeah, maximize your time, because it would be nice to. It's like great time chatting to you, because it's exactly what's been on my mind. Is I wanted to approach the second channel far more clinically, so that there's so many people in my community that would love to work in the digital creative space but don't have an outlet. So I'd love to have a channel where, you know, I've got like 2 young guys working on it. They do the research, they put the whole thing together, they're loving every moment of it. Then I just come in and I read a script, you know, and that's it. And we just study trends, and we make videos. I'm really glad I spoke to you about this.
I think that's I think for even I'm just trying to think about this. It's an interesting goal, right? I've hired people, not for my own business before. What kind of business do you have, by the way? You mentioned you have a business, right?
Yes, I have we do digital creative, so we do social media content for local businesses. So we, you know. Okay, so it ties together. I started in the video space. Yes, it's kind of, I just started I actually started the YouTube channel about 7 years ago, basically if I'm going to do this as a living, I need to put my money where my mouth is. And so I just kept doing YouTube, and eventually it kind of became a thing. Yeah. Anyway, yes, what were you saying?
I've always, you know, it's a big step between working for yourself and then hiring someone else, because then you have to, you know, a very large proportion of your time is spent managing and quality control the other person. So I've always thought it's quite a big thing to have someone, not even on payroll, but like have someone rely on you financially, and then you have to generate, you know, at least 50% more revenue to cover that other person. So I always think YouTube's a kind of a nice space. I mean, not even does someone like Russ? Do they hire people, or I think he just works on his own, right?
He's on his own, but he's starting to think about that, because I think it's just reaching a point where he just wants quality of life, and he's been working really hard for really long, and so I've heard him mention something. So maybe in the not too distant future, I know he's working on a project for the end of the year where he might get someone to help him.
I think I think at that scale, you might start thinking about maybe doing that. But if someone like Russ can do it on his own for that long, at that level of discipline and quality, then, you know, then I think scaling on your own is the simplest thing. Because then I shudder at the idea of like having to hire someone to write a script, right? Like for me, my content's not really script based, right? It doesn't really rely on us. There's not much of a story being told. For me, like it's the time is better spent just improving the script myself, or just editing it better myself. I can't imagine at what scale it would have to be really high level of views to warrant another person. It would like wipe out the profit from this entirely. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, that is true. I think I'm somewhere between. Do you know Stubbs from the Retro Handhelds community? I don't know if you saw my episode with Stubbs, but so he runs the Retro Handhelds community, and so I think I'm somewhere between yourself and Russ are in that sort of like we are really good and disciplined at creating everything ourselves, and then Stubbs, on the other hand, has built an entire community around him. I think it's over 10 people that are working in the retro handout space. They, get paid in piecemeal for what they do because they don't all work full time. But I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to have a few people around me. Like, for instance, my business, I have a photographer and I have a video editor and that sort of thing. So I like that. I like having that little community that I built around my business. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But I hear what you're saying though, because if you can maximize what you are doing without the extra expense, then you're winning.
Well, if you already got existing relationships with a business that's already working, then it's kind of easy to pull them over into the YouTube side. But I think a lot of people would struggle, with that. Because I'm not suited to being manager. I can barely discipline myself to work. I'm not going to get someone else.
Yeah, it was actually out of just sheer necessity. So I've mentioned this in plenty of my episodes now, but I was diagnosed with ADHD only last year. So I'm 44. I was 43 last year, and I was going to therapy for something unrelated, and the therapist through the time, like the year that we'd been working together, towards the end, she's like, I've been listening to you, blah, blah, blah. And I think you have ADHD. And then like your whole life flashes before your eyes because you're like, I did that, and that. And the reason I get staff is because I do a thing and I do it really well I can maybe do it for 2 years. I can hyper focus on something. But then eventually it reaches a point where I'm just like, cool, I'm done with this thing. And eventually, you reach a point in your life where you've got a wife and kids and you've got to support everyone. And so I couldn't just stop doing those things. And so what do? I need to get help or pay someone to do this. Otherwise, my business is going to fail. So it's not like I have some great gift. It's out of sheer like managing my brain that I have staff. Yeah.
I mean, 2 years like focused on one thing. That's probably I don't want to downplay your ADHD, but I think for a lot of people 2 years is a long time to do one thing, right? To a high level. Yeah. I think it's normal to switch it up a bit at that stage. Okay. Even if you have like a normal 9-to-5 job, 2 years, find a new job, find a new thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is very true. Cool. So the thing that I picked up, because I saw you did a bunch of videos like earlier on, you did the Nano.
Nano, yeah.
So just to jump a little bit into the retro gaming space, how did you feel about it? I actually didn't see it when I was researching, but I saw them now while I was scrolling.
Yeah, I did some stuff on the Nano. It's very embarrassing. I can't find my Nano. I literally can't find it in my house. I've been looking everywhere for it. It's so small. It's just kind of slipped between the cracks somewhere. Yeah.
But funny. You're the second person this week to tell me they lost their Nano. That's funny.
Really? Okay. It is so. Yes. It's beautiful little piece of tech, and I love the metallic finish. I really like the tiny, the small form factor. The fact that I can fit it into the tiny pocket of my jeans. I like being able to just resume a game. I like the aspect ratio is like a Game Boy type
resume
aspect ratio, really good.
Yes,
I've really enjoyed using it. It's when I find it again, I'll pick it up.
Pity you lost it. Yeah.
Well, it's somewhere. I'm moving house soon, so I'll find it again in the move. I'm sure.
I'm it's on my mind. Yeah. So carry on.
What have you enjoyed playing on it?
I spent, so when I first got it, I made the video and then I just kept playing. It was sitting on my bedside table, and the battery life is so good because you switch it off and it just keeps going and opens on the game when you pick it up again. So I played Cat Trap for months. So I picked it up this week and I was like, shit, this level is so hard. Because when you're in a game, your brain's kind of like in that zone. So I picked it up. I was trying to play Cat Trap, and I was like, I think I'm going to start from the beginning because these levels that I'm on are so difficult. But so for those sort of one-handed games, it's quite nice.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one-hand. I've been playing Pokemon, like a ROM hack on it called Pokemon Unbound, which is a Game Boy Advance game.
Okay.
And I can just about read the text on that tiny screen.
Yes,
but,
cheapest.
Yeah,
that's...
I mean, yeah, not built
Good
for
glasses.
the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, but I think what I found in general about gaming as I get older as well, and what I've found interesting about gaming is not necessarily gaming itself. Like, I think what my career in a sense has been founded on this idea of like trying to optimize the game or the game library as much as possible, right? And that comes with the handheld devices as well, because like it's a bit of a meme in the retro handheld market, that kind of community, that everyone just keeps buying these devices, like trying to find the ultimate device, right? And I think it's similar for me as well. It's just trying to find the ultimate device, or the ultimate thing for that particular scenario. Put it that the RG Nanos for my pocket, the RG35XX is for when when I've got my sling bag, my Steamdeck's for when I go on a plane, and the Mac is as well. It's like, if I only have a Mac computer, then I need like at least 2,000 hours of gaming on it, right? I'm gonna need to like pack it up, and I never really played that many games on it, even though I have like 40 or 50 games installed. It's it's just this idea that you have to optimize, right? Optimize as much as possible for like the quality of life things. Yeah, and what I find like the worst thing for me is like playing a version of the game which is like suboptimal. Like I remember like I used to own like an Xbox 360 and a PS3, and then when a console exclusive came out, I remember someone gave me a copy of Bayonetta for Xbox, and I was like, okay, thanks. But then I thought, but it's better it's like the frame rate's slightly better on PS3, so I'll buy it there. Then it came out on PC, and then I was like, it's obviously better on PC. And I never ended up playing the game, but I was just thinking like, I have to have the best version of the game. I need to play it on PC. And then I thought, well, actually, I need to play it when I'm away from my PC, so I need it on my Steam Deck, right? So it's like this thing is like a constantly this itch that's constantly beneath scratching, this idea that I need this thing to be optimal for my life, right? And that's more important than actually playing it. Right?
Yeah, and that's where we come in. Like we YouTubers and content creators come in, because like I always pose this question to guys on the channel, on the podcast, because I'm like, where is this retro gaming scene going? Have we peaked? Is it going to die? And I do think there's truth to what I'm saying, because I think it is faddish. I think we are going to see a downturn on the sort of retro emulator handheld scene. By the same token, like you're saying, everyone wants to optimize. So for instance, let's say, just for argument's sake, everybody moves to the Steam Deck. But the problem is the Steam Deck's huge. So there's that. Then some people prefer Windows. So let's talk about that. So there's always the little things that people want to go, yeah, but I prefer this, or I like this, or the grip is like, there's always this optimization that people want to do. And that's where we come in, I guess.
Yeah. People spend hundreds of dollars unnecessarily on devices which can do virtually the same thing, but in a very slightly different form factor. Yeah, very, very slightly different. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah, but
yeah,
because people want to be either or. People want to be on or off. Like the guy I mentioned before, TechDweeb, you should check out his channel. He put a very, like, he likes to be positive, but he's grounded in like reality. So, if something is rubbish, he'll say it's rubbish, but he got the MSI claw. And I know everyone wants to hate on the MSI claw, and I haven't seen it or tried it, but what his opinion was, there are some issues with the price is too high. And I'm not sure if he talked about the Intel drivers and that, but he was just saying it's because it's not as good as the ROG Ally and it's not the best, they want to say it's the worst. But like, we don't have enough Windows handheld devices out yet to say it's the worst. It's average, and that's okay. Like, and I like that sort of mentality sometimes as well on YouTube. A bit of a sobering, like, let's all just chill out, guys. Like, it doesn't have to be the best or the worst. It can just be okay, and that's fine, maybe overspent on this thing that's average, but hey, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that all of these devices, they're a kind of miracle, like a handheld gaming miracle, right? If you transported even the worst of these devices to my childhood or your childhood, you'd be like amazed. This is like the best thing that's ever existed. It blows your mind, right? Yeah, and it's only I don't understand. There's like this huge. It's really from the access to information from the internet, because you can directly compare things which aren't there. Most normies, right? They just go to a shop and they buy the best thing in the shop or whatever the salesperson recommends them.
Yes,
and that's like 99% of the world just thought, oh, that's fine. This is going to do. But there's us discerning people. We overanalyze everything. Overanalyze every tiny thing, from buttons to D-pads to shoulder pads to screen quality. It's all much of a muchness, let's say, in the UK. It's,
Yes. Yeah, we say that too. Much of a muchness. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
All right, so we haven't really touched on it, but I thought we'll close out on this because we just like kind of plowed through the mountain of like Windows and Mac and handhelds, and we never really landed on the whole like work-life balance, which is what you said you would be keen to talk about. So, I mean, you mentioned, did you say you have a business, or you just have a sort of a day job? What are you doing apart from YouTube, or is this full-time now?
From what I'd say, I would call my job on YouTube part-time, because I don't work on it all the time. I just took a 1 month break, and basically I probably spend. It's very hard to measure, because I like to underestimate how much I'm working, but like 2 or 3 days a week on this right at the moment.
Okay. All right.
So that side is fine. I take an income from website PC Gaming Wiki. Arguably, PC Gaming Wiki, the website, is far more famous than I am. It is huge. Yeah. It's millions of views per month. And I spent a long time kind of outside my main career at the time, developing that, like thousands and thousands of hours working on this website, developing the seed content for it, building the community. And it basically runs itself at the moment. So I'm quite happy with where it is. It's quite hands off. Yeah. Those two things combined means that I have a lot of free time, look after the children, do the school runs. Cool. So I just come back from the school run, and so I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed with this and the second YouTube channel. Even just those two things are plenty for me and my family to live off. And in terms of work-life balance, I think the biggest issue is kind of the mental workload the pressure that you give to yourself. It's all kind of like self-generated, because it's we talked about at the beginning. I'll set myself this time limit. Like I have 24 hours to finish this video, right? And it's it can feel incredibly stressful, because even tiny bumps, like I can't get this thing to install, right? Or I can't figure out why this is slower than normal for some reason. And it becomes incredibly stressful. But I think one thing to help mediate that stress is just realizing that all of this stress comes internally. It's not really doesn't really exist. The time limit pressure is just something that I've imposed on myself.
Yes.
If I release something that's suboptimal, that's okay, right? It's not the end of the world. And I think a lot of YouTubers fall into a trap of like trying to like hit those trends, right? I'll do it when I have time. Okay. If I can't release that video, then I'll just have to wait for the next one, the next thing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
A lot of the stress is just kind of self-imposed, I'd say. At least in my space, anyway. I feel like it's. I have to look after myself first, right? And then the YouTube channel comes later.
Yes.
I mean, how do you find your stress levels when you're trying to make YouTube content?
Yeah, I think that's maybe why I've developed a bit of a mental aversion. Like when I saw your Fallout video, I was like, oh, he follows the trends. Oh, I know I should follow the trends, and it stressed me out. Because in the beginning, I was doing that. I was trying to, because my channel got a lot of traction with the RG35XX. I got it for some reason, and the Miu Mini, one of them, I got them early. Like I got them the same time as the big YouTubers, and I'm not sure why. I just got shipped really quickly to me. And I was like, I'm in it. Let's make these videos. And I put my time aside from my business, and the channel wasn't making money, but I was like, let's just do this. And the channel grew. And so that kind of set in my mind, I have to be first in order to grow. And just a little while ago, I said to myself, you can't buy all the devices. You'll run out of money. And I have Go Game Geek sending me devices and a few other places. And so I just said, when you get the device, you get the device. Make a video. And some of them do well, some of them don't. Some devices are trending for longer periods of time. Like I did the RG556 last week Friday, and it's my highest performing video for a while now, and it's already old. So I think taking that stress off myself has actually helped a lot in making better content. And sometimes even though maybe my trends are a little bit behind the curve, I'm still getting some of those views from the trend. And I'm happy with that for now. Once I can afford to be the first guy, then great. But for now, I'm just dealing with the stress that way, because I can't, I also like putting things into perspective. Like, I talk to a lot of other YouTubers, and then I realize, they have a day job, they come home, their partners or whatever, give them the sort of time to go, okay, I'll work from after dinner for so many hours, and they make a video, and that's what they get to do. Whereas I have my own business, even though I get to have flexi time, it's an incredible amount of stress, to have the business and the YouTube, and then put pressure on myself to make money on both things. So I've just had to learn to, like you say, the limits are self-inflicted, and just to relieve those limits a bit. Instead of saying, every video has to hit this mark, just lower that mark a little bit and aim for that every time, and it's still good enough. And at least then I don't kill myself with stress.
Yeah, I definitely think. I think one thing that I would find very stressful, I think, if I lived in if I lived somewhere like South Africa or in another country that wasn't the UK, is that just like delivery times, right? Like if you for me, like I know that if I order an Apple device, DHL is going to deliver it to me. It's going to come by 11 a.m., right? Yes. It's going to be there. Yeah. Right? It's just going to arrive. But like for you, if you wanted a device, you wanted that Steamdeck, and your postal service, your courier wasn't quite that reliable, and that sometimes for me, if that might make or break certain types of content, like if you're trying to be first. So I think firstly, letting go of that is probably a good idea.
Yes. Yeah. No, but it's definitely a valid point, because it's actually it's something, because of the thing with TechDweeb and getting my Steamdeck, I started to become aware of it, and I have noticed that shipping from China specifically is getting slower and slower. Even though they use Buffalo shipping, so they bypass the local postal system. But in them trying to keep the costs down, because DHL is brilliant. Like I get something from China in 5 days. It's like crazy fast, but it's expensive. So it is getting slower and slower. I made a joke to my wife that we're going to have to move soon, because if I can't get my devices, then I'm not going to be very happy.
I mean, it's a valid thing. Yeah, I've thought about like I'm glad I didn't do it, but I was thinking like, oh yeah, if I wanted to do Apple Vision Pro content, then I need to go to America and then get one, and that's the fastest way to get one, is to go to Apple Shop in New York and then come back, right? Yeah, that'd be the fastest way. Yes. I'm glad I didn't do that, because it's not a trend worth chasing. But it just makes me think, and I have there's a lot of YouTubers in like Australia who receive products first, or they receive software first, because of the time zone right there. They're right there, and they'll be able to make a video like 12 hours earlier than me. But yeah, you can't stress too much about it. I think one thing that I've realized is that for my space anyway, the idea of getting something early doesn't really help much for me anyway, because if it's not something that people are searching for, in the sense that they need it in their, a lot of the content that I have, they need something in their hand to be able to make use of the tutorial video, right? So having it early doesn't really do anything, right? Getting it on the same day that everyone else, and then making a video soon after that is enough. I would say it's enough.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think in your position as well, I think anyone who can't get a product necessarily on the first day, if you deep dive into these devices, like the RG35XX is an enduring device. There's a recent refresh, but basically it's the same, right? Essentially, and going deep into something, it can be quite rewarding. I think the fact that you have a Steamdeck, the Steamdeck hasn't really changed very much in terms of its software. The LCD Steamdeck is the same as the OLED Steamdeck. You could dive even deeper into that. There's all this stuff which is, you'll be on exactly equal footing with everyone else.
Yes, and those are the sorts of things I look for. Yeah. That's my brain's constantly working on, like, the cogs are turning constantly. I have a little system that I use where I manage my video ideas, and that's exactly what I do. So, for instance, the RG556, that was an easy one, but it's a good example. So the RG556, now, how do I make a video? Everyone has made a video about it. What video has not been created yet? And lots of people have been talking about the RG556 versus the Retro Pocket 4 Pro, but there's not a lot of videos actually about it. So there's been shorts or whatever, podcasts, whatever, but no one's actually made a video about it. So that is why it did so well, because I came up with a creative topic for something that is kind of trending, but I need something to kind of push it over the edge. And so I'm constantly thinking of those things. Some things I just give up. Like, they sent me this thing, hopefully Go Game Geek don't watch this, but they sent me the M18, and I put it on my desk yesterday, and I was looking at it, I was analyzing the screen, and it's just such a poor, I'm going to make a short, and I'm going to have Go Game Geek on my screen, on my phone, and I'm just going to make a YouTube short and just say, here are the other devices to buy instead of the M18, and just show them all the other devices on the Go Game Geek website that are way better for the same price, because it's just absolute rubbish. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, some things are not going to be very, very interesting content if they're very bad. I mean, that can be content in itself, that it's bad, but
yeah, maybe, because I do want to do my due diligence and give them a video, but I also don't want to say, I don't know. Yeah, maybe, because when I saw it, because it's got this comically wide angle screen. It's not 16 by 9, it's like 20 by, what's that cinematic screen that they do?
It's 21 by 9?
It's that. It's like 21 by 9, yeah. Which is just ridiculous. Like, what are we going to, because it doesn't play DS, so you can't put the two screens side by side. It's just a silly screen. Wonderful ergonomics and stuff, but just dumb.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
This is me.
All these handhelds are like, they're cobbled together using whatever surplus screens were just there. I wonder where this came from, this 21 by 9 screen. It's from like remote control or something that they made a million too many panels for, and then they think, oh, okay, well, we'll get these for cheap. Let's build a handheld around it.
Yeah, it's probably like an indicator screen for some industrial electronic thing, like punching buttons, gives you some sort of reading. Anyway, because it's very low resolution as well. No.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. How much does it sell for, the M18?
It's $89. So it's the budget king, but $89 is it's expensive.
You can buy it. There's a lot of Anbernic devices which could beat that easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the 353V on a sale. I think it's $100 and something, but on sale you'll get it for $80.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's maybe anyway. Yeah, cool. Done. We made a video idea.
A lot of people are going to get these. A lot of people are going to get these anyway. Like, especially if they're people buy them not necessarily because they want to, but they've given them as a gift or something like that, or they've just
someone's like
got a surplus. Yeah. So there's something
maybe to make the most of the M18, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I remember before this YouTube community developed, I would see these Anbernic devices, the early ones, like from like 6 or 7 years ago, and I looked at them and I thought, wow, this is amazing, but there's like no information about it. And the people who bought them, like they didn't have a clue, right? They just like picked something from Amazon and just thought, oh, okay, this can play 5,000 games or something. Let's just buy it, right? And they were great, and people still have them, right? They just don't know how to get the most out of it. There was no custom firmware. There was no loading additional ROMs. They just played what was on the card. Suboptimal, but people enjoyed it nevertheless. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a bit more digging. Anyway.
Yeah.
Andrew, it's been actually fascinating talking to you. Like, I can't remember. I think you reached out to me.
I've been watching your podcast, and I think it's been, from my point of view, it's been very fascinating watching other creators talk about the way they approach content, right? So I think, I personally, I think that there's a lot of crossover between what I do, because in the Mac gaming space, it's very lonely. Yeah, it's just me and one other guy, and
cool.
we
you're
chat,
always welcome
right?
to chat.
We chat,
cool.
and I try to give him advice, and he doesn't really listen, and we're both doing our own thing. But I think the closest analog is really like the Steamdeck community, and then the retro handheld community. There's a lot of similar types of people and content involved in that kind of space. So it's been really interesting talking to you as well. Just another YouTuber trying to like figure out everything and share a few tips and information.
It's great chatting to someone with just a different perspective. You remind me a little bit of my other UK friend. You've probably seen some of his videos. Is Shem. He's got a channel called Retro Breeze.
I don't recognize the name, but I'm sure I've seen I've seen a lot of videos about retro handhelds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You guys have a slightly similar approach in that he's also quite sort of clinical, but he loves to have a good moan. He's so funny. So at Shem, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I've got this idea for a video, because I'm going to do however long, either 4 months later, with the Retro Pocket 4 Pro, and I love it. And he's got a real issue with the screen, and I just can't see it. When it first arrived, it had like a magenta halation around some of the edges, which I think they fixed in an update. But he's just very unhappy with this ghosting, so he's going to do a clip in my upcoming video, just moaning about it, and I'm going to be like, enough, that's enough from you. He loves to have a good moan. That's quite funny, quite cool. But anyway, you guys have a similar sort of like clinical approach to what you do. But yeah, it's been great chatting, and we must keep chatting. Like if you ever, especially if you're going to do like a retro device, just reach out. Like I'd love to chat about it, and YouTube. Like I think from my side, I just want to keep talking to you, because you've given me some really good tips to run with.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. That's fun. It's very rare I get to talk to. It's a lonely existence being a YouTuber. I think a lot of it is never being able to talk about it. People talk about it in real life, they just switch off. They don't care. But it's good to have a like-minded conversation. But anyway.
Cool. I'm glad.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks. Bye.